Jeremy Fink and the Meaning of Life, Chapter 14. Life, the Universe, and Everything. Are you okay? Lizzie asks. You look a little freaked out. More freaked out than usual, I mean. I hope you didn't mind me asking about the time machine. Did you understand all that mumbo-jumbo? I pull myself away from the models of the sun and earth and take a deep breath. Basically, he told me that even if I found a way to go back in time to save my father, I couldn't really save him. I couldn't bring him back with me, and if I could never get back, then I'd be leaving my mom without both my dad and me. But hey, there would be 2 Jeremy Finks in the past. That wouldn't be so bad, right? I shake my head. One of me is plenty. But maybe the other Jeremy could do your math homework while you, the real Jeremy, hung out with me. 2 Jeremys would mean there'd be one more person on Earth who could stand to be around me. First off, I reply, I like math. But thanks for trying to make me feel better. And I'm not the only person who likes you. Your dad, for one. He has to. I'm his daughter. Well, Samantha seems to like you. Lizzie shrugs. I heard her tell Rick she thinks I'm entertaining. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. Lizzie makes a face. Dogs are entertaining. I shrug. Not all of them. Lizzie smiles. At that moment, Dr. Grady appears. He has taken off his white lab coat, but still looks like Einstein. Come on, Lizzie says, pulling me to my feet. Let's go find out how we got to this. What did he call it? Backwater edge of the Milky Way? I have reconsidered your question, Mr. Fink, Dr. Grady says, clasping me on the shoulder. There is, in fact, a way to see the past whenever one wishes. I'm afraid it's not exactly what you're looking for, but it is a good place as any to start finding the answer to your first question. How we came to be here, and may even answer why, follow me and keep in mind this is just a scientific explanation based on what we can observe and measure with our current equipment. He leads us to the top of the winding ramp. Most people are going in the opposite direction, so we have to fight our way through. You have heard of a light year, I imagine, he asks. I nod. Lizzie nods too, but I think she would nod at anything if it meant not having to listen to an explanation. I don't think Dr. Grady is convinced either, since he explains. If an object, a star, for instance, like our own sun, is 800 light years away from Earth, it would take light leaving that object 20 million years until it reached our eyes. So, when you look at the object, you are seeing it as it appeared 800 light years ago, not as it looks today. It might not even exist anymore. Every time you look up at the stars, Dr. Grady continues, you are looking into the past. He points to a map of the night sky, and I recognize some of the constellations we learned about in school. He catches sight of Lizzie checking her teeth in one of the shiny display cases. I'm not boring you, am I? We could just check out the gift shop if you'd prefer. I try to give Lizzie a kick, but when she moves away too quickly, she nearly topples right into a model of the solar system. Please go on, Dr. Grady, I urge. Okay then. Roll up your sleeves, and I'll give you a quick lesson in the history of the universe. Ready? We're wearing short sleeves, Lizzie points out. It's an expression, my dear. Like, it's the journey, not the destination. Shall I continue? What journey do you mean? Lizzie asks. Why, life, of course. Oh, Lizzie says. Right. Dr. Grady takes a few steps down the ramp and points to a quote engraved on the wall. He reads it out loud. The universe is queerer than we suppose, and queerer than we can suppose. This brings us back to your original question. How did we come to be here in this strange, most unknowable place? For the answer to that, we have to start at the beginning. About 13.7 billion years ago, there was nothing that we can measure. No space, no time. Then suddenly, there was something. This something is called a singularity. A point so dense and hot that it contained all matter that you will find in the universe. No one knows where it came from. Maybe a supreme being placed it there for all we know. Or it came out from some whole other universe we know nothing about. But we do know what came next. Before I can stop myself, my hand shoots up in the air. Lizzie laughs and I quickly lower it. The Big Bang? Exactly! Dr. Grady says, rubbing his hands together excitedly, but don't think of it as a bang, or an explosion. It was actually a massive expansion, like blowing up an unimaginably tiny balloon to an unimaginably huge balloon that is still expanding. Dr. Grady pauses, running his hands through his hair. It doesn't do much good, because it bounces right back up anyway. Lizzie begins to hum softly to herself. I elbow her in the ribs. She shoots me a dirty look, but stops humming. Dr. Grady doesn't seem to notice. All the matter and energy in the universe, he explains excitedly, including us, are inside this balloon. The planets, the stars, you and I, we all come from this very same stuff at the very same point in time, 13.7 billion years ago. The universe unfolded at many times the speed of light, spewing forth subatomic particles and creating things like gravity and electromagnetism. Stars formed from gases and dust clouds, and the debris of ice spun off to create the planets. With me so far? I nod, my brain spinning. So I wasn't born 12, almost 13 years ago. I was born 13.7 billion years ago. My mom owes me a lot of birthday presents. Let's bring it closer to home now, Dr. Grady says happily. It's great watching someone who loves what he does. Dad was like that. At the comic store, Mom loves the library, and Lizzie's dad loves the post office. I wonder if I'll ever find something I love so much. I tune back in to hear Dr. Grady say, our solar system was formed 4.5 billion years ago. It took about another 4.5 billion years. It took about another billion years until the surface of the Earth cooled. Pretty much as soon as life could begin, it did. Out of our primordial soup, some basic chemicals and gases mixed with UV radiation and lighting arose the building blocks of life. Amino acids, these were followed by bacteria, then single-celled organisms, multi-celled organisms, plants, invertebrates, vertebrates, reptiles, and mammals, all adapting to their ever-changing environment over billions of years. A group of teenagers dressed in white lab coats approaches, trailing after an older woman who looks like the female version of Dr. Grady. The kids each carry a clipboard. Lizzie nudges me and whispers, "That's you in 5 years." "Very funny," I whisper back, but I stare at their faces as they file by. Their eyes looked eager and bright. It wouldn't be so bad to look like that. Dr. Grady waits for the group to pass and continues. It may not be very appealing to think that we all came from some sludge that produced the amoeba, but we all have a common ancestor. Our DNA shares the same chemical structure. You, I, and the fruit fly all have the same blueprint for life. All life on this planet is connected. Some people can feel it more than others. On a spiritual level, there is life on other planets. It will likely have evolved very differently from us. The chance of duplicating what happened here is close to zero. How come? I can't help asking. Trust me, Dr. Grady says. We are all here because over billions of years, countless variables fell into place, any of which could have taken another path. We are essentially a beautiful fluke as the millions of other species in which we share this planet. Our cells are composed of atoms and dust particles from distant galaxies and from billions of living organisms that inhabited this planet before us. He pauses here and wipes a little tear from his eye. To be polite, Lizzie and I look away. So now you know the scientific explanation of how we got here, Dr. Grady says, clearing his throat. As you see, it also answers the question of why we are here. Physics tells us we're here because gravity keeps us from floating away into space. In the most basic biological terms, we're here because some of the earliest inhabitants of this planet, bacteria, allow us to be. Our bodies would not be able to function without the jobs they perform for us. In the air around us, on our skin, and inside our organs. We think we're the most powerful species on the planet, but we're far from it. We would not live for one day without them, but bacteria are so adaptable they would be here with the sun when the sun burns out. Bacteria and cockroaches. I look at Lizzie, who started squirming. I have no doubt she's thinking about the bacteria living on her body. Somehow I thought to answer that to why we're here would hold a little bit more, I don't know, glamorous. Lizzie begins scratching. Long red welts appear on her arms. I fear I have rambled too long, Dr. Grady says, consulting his watch. I hope I didn't overwhelm you. No, it was great, I tell him honestly. I have a million questions to ask, but I'm pretty sure Lizzie will kill me if I do. Oh, I say suddenly, remembering the bargain Lizzie made. Your telescope came from... He puts up his hand to cut me off. I change my mind. Let it be a mystery as to why it has returned to me after 50 years. I've spent my life trying to find rational explanations for life's mysteries. Okay, I say with a smile. Lowering my voice, I ask, maybe someday I could come back? Of course, he says, slapping me on the back and grinning. And you won't even have to bring me anything. We shake hands and I turn to Lizzie. Are you ready to go? She nods frantically. Are you all right, Lizzie? Dr. Grady asks, his brow crinkling in concern. Lizzie nods again. I'll be okay as soon as I can get into a really hot shower. He laughs. Remember, bacteria are friendly for the most part. You don't want to wash or scratch them all away. Lizzie hastily sticks her hands in her short pockets to keep on from scratching. I know she's not convinced. We head for the archway that will lead us back to the dinosaur exhibit and James. Never forget, Dr. Grady says as we enter the exhibit. As immense as the universe is, as much as we will never know about it, there is only one Jeremy Fink, one Lizzie Molden, one Amos Grady. That makes each of us special and unique beyond comprehension. Why are we here? In my opinion, we are here because we won the evolutionary lottery. We're here because, as far as we know, this is the only place we can be. So basically what you're saying is, Lizzie says, scratching her thighs from inside her pockets, we're here because we're here. Precisely, Dr. Grady says. Lizzie pinches me on the arm. Does that work for you, Jeremy? Or is your existential crisis going to continue? My brain is still spinning from all Dr. Grady has said, but spinning in a good way. You know, it takes me a long time to sort through things, I reply. I can't make decisions at the drop of a hat like you can. How true? Once, Lizzie begins scratching her belly now as we walk, when we were 6, Jeremy's parents took us for ice cream. It took him so long to decide between chocolate and vanilla that eventually the guy had to close the shop and he didn't get anything. I sigh. I liked it much better when Lizzie was consumed with tearing away layers of her skin. Dr. Grady chuckles and says, coming to terms with why we are here and the meaning of it all can be a lifelong quest. Someday, when you two are old and married, you'll look back at, ah! We scream in unison. We're not getting married, I exclaim. At least not to each other, Lizzie adds. At that moment, the life-size dinosaur skeleton looms into view. No doubt anxious to change the subject, Dr. Grady says, if a meteor hadn't struck the earth and made that guy extinct, mammals wouldn't have grown any bigger than that large rat or a small pig. You and I wouldn't be here, so it worked out well for us. He looks up at the dinosaur fondly. Not so well for him, though. There's your friend, Dr. Grady says, pointing to James. James is standing behind one of the dinosaur's huge front legs. He's leaning over the railing and peering so close that his nose is almost touching it. It's not real, Dr. Grady says when we approach. No? James says, clearly disappointed. Dr. Grady shakes his head. But the other leg is. James immediately rushes over to that leg and peers closely again. I follow him. I didn't take you for a dinosaur guy. James nods. My father used to collect fossils and bones. He once found a mollusk that was over 1,000,000 years old. Wow, I say, truly impressed. My dad's greatest find was a scratch-off lottery ticket worth $25 stuck inside a boot he found on the street. Hey, James says, cocking his head. What's wrong with Lizzie? I turn to see that Lizzie, in the corner of the exhibit, scratching her head crazily. She has pulled her ponytail out and her hair is now sticking up in every direction. Oh, that's because Dr. Grady told us that bacteria basically covers us from head to toe, inside and out. We'd better take her home, James says. I look for Dr. Grady to say goodbye and find him engrossed in a conversation with a father and his 2 young boys. He waves a salute as we leave. In the car on the way home, Lizzie curls up on the seat, occasionally twitching, and I realize that I feel much better. The dark cloud that was pressing down on me isn't there anymore. Mr. Oswald was right. Knowing how we got here helps. Even though it is totally overwhelming how huge the universe is, and what small part of it we are, it's comforting somehow to understand where we fit in it. And it's exciting to think of how many more HOJs I can fill learning more about it. I'm tempted to torture Lizzie by making her do a recap with me of everything that we've learned today, but I decide to spare her. No matter how much I've learned this week about life, the universe, and everything, I'm not sure I'm any closer to knowing what's in Dad's box. I reach into the mini fridge and pull out a soda. I'm about to pop the tab when an idea hits me. Something I should have thought of the day Mom handed me the box. It's so obvious. I lean forward and shake Lizzie on the leg. She moans. I take that as a sign that she's listening. How'd you like to go to Atlantic City? She opens one eye. Are there bacteria in Atlantic City? Nope, I lie. Okay, she says and closes her eye again. A second later, she opens it. How are we going to get to Atlantic City? I'll think of something, I reply. I wait for her to ask, why are we going to Atlantic City? But she doesn't. By the time Mom gets home from work, I still haven't thought of a plan. I had spent most of the afternoon watching Ferret chase cat around the fish tank. Dog and hamster just swam leisurely, looking amused. Needless to say, they didn't give me any ideas. Many times I considered knocking on Lizzie's door and asking for help, but she was taking the longest shower on record, and she's always the one who comes up with the plans. I should be able to do one on my own. Mom knocks on my door and she pushes it open. She's wearing a button that says reading is for winners. How was your day? She asks, taking a sip of iced tea. It was really good, I tell her. We went to the Museum of Natural History. That's some rough community service you guys are forced to endure. I grin. It's not all fun and games. Today in the limo, they were out of Coke. I had to have Pepsi. But you like Pepsi better anyway. True, but I didn't have a choice. She shakes her head at me. Before I forget, Aunt Judy has her art exhibit in Atlantic City on Sunday. Do you and Lizzie want to come? I hear her say the words, but I can't absorb them. I am never this lucky. Did you say Atlantic City? I asked, holding my breath. I did. The show is at one of the casinos on the boardwalk. They're trying to improve their image by supporting local artists. Still not willing to believe it, I say, Did you say the boardwalk? She walks over to me, lifts up a lock of my hair, and peers into my ear. Are you developing a hearing problem? I shake my head and my hair falls back into place. Are you interested or not? I nod enthusiastically. So this is what it's going to be like living with a teenager, she says with a sigh. Then she tussles my hair like I'm 5 and closes my door.